everybody. Welcome back to the Huddle, the Review.com's weekly high school sports show. I'm Rob Toter, joined as always by Mike Brown. And Mike, we're getting into the meat of the high school spring sports season. We've got a couple undefeated teams in softball and boys track. And let's start with the West Branch Warrior girls softball team.
Yeah, Rob, they're off to a 15-0 start. The Kofeld, the sophomore pitcher, is just having a phenomenal season for them. And they won 2 more games this week, and then Wednesday night they went up to Akron-Garfield and beat the Rams, and they're just rolling. And then obviously they beat the Minerva Lions on Thursday, 14-1. So they are rolling. A lot of their games haven't even been that close. I mean, they're getting great pitching. They've got really a good hitting lineup too. They hit for the extra bases. And it's going to be fun to see how it plays out for them as we get into the postseason. And surprisingly, Rob, the drawing for the softball is May 1st. So it's coming up, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for them.
Now, looking way too early to the tournament, as you mentioned, though. Is it the usual suspects, the Poland Bulldogs and the Canfield Cardinals?
And, well, Canfield's in D1 this year, so that helps a team like West Branch. But yeah, Poland, that's been their nemesis in the tournament, and I think that's probably what it'll come down to get to the regional. I think you could see a district semifinal or a district final with West Branch and Poland. Again, that's probably putting the cart ahead of the horse. We have a lot of good NBC play to happen. And in fact, a great game next Tuesday night in Louisville will be the rematch between West Branch and Louisville. Now, West Branch beat Louisville in the first meeting in Beloit. The second one will be in Louisville, and that ought to be a game to see.
Also in the NBC, how are the Marlington Dukes doing? We know they got off to a great start.
Yeah, they did. They got off to a really good start, and they had some misfortune recently. They've had a couple injuries to some key positions, and that really hurt them. They've dropped a couple games, and they're really a quality team, and your heart just breaks for them. You hope that some of those players can come back. I'm not so sure that's the case for one of them. They have to see the extent of that injury, but they've got a nice quality team, and obviously Louisville does too. We have 3 really good girls softball teams, and the Alliance girls softball team is a good team as well. So we've got some quality softball teams in the NBC this spring.
Okay, let's shift our focus to track and field. Alliance boys remain undefeated.
Yeah, and isn't that a nice story? They're 3-0-1. They're off to their best start in a number of years, and again, they had a win on Tuesday night, and again, Stone Johnson led them, and Dylan Bailey won the 1600 and 3200, and Stone Johnson won the high jump and long jump again. I believe that's the second straight meet. He swept those 2 events, and they've got some really good individuals on that team, and they've made a lot of progress with the Alliance Boys Track program.
Okay. Girls Track, how are things looking on the girls' side?
Yeah, well, the Alliance Girls Track team lost this week. The Marlington Girls Track team got a win over the Canton South Wildcats on Tuesday night, so that's a good win for them. West Branch, the boys and girls track teams are still looking for their first win of the season. They both lost really close meets to Louisville. I think the girls lost by 2 and the boys lost by 6 on Tuesday night, so they're still looking for their first win. Those are younger teams this year at West Branch.
Okay, and let's talk about baseball. Who impresses you so far this year?
I think it continues to be Marlington. Brock Begg, the pitcher, is having a great spring. He's thrown a no-hitter this spring and had a bunch of other really good pitching outings. And I think they're a team that's probably going to do really well come tournament time. Now, again, we were talking, Rob, before we were on camera, that our teams have gotten switched this year. We've got West Branch usually goes to Scene Park and Struthers, but this year Alliance and Marlington go to Scene Park for the sectional. And that's going to be a big switch. We'll see how that plays out. Some of the teams moved up in that tournament this year, but you have traditional powers like Canfield and Cardinal Mooney, I believe, are still there. So that's a tough tournament. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out for our team.
And I believe Ursuline's in
Division
Right,
2 and there's the other one. That's right.
So, yeah. Boys tennis. You mentioned Marlington boys tennis team off to a nice start this year.
They're off to an 8-2 start, and they got a win earlier this week. They beat West Branch 5-0. So I think they've probably had the best start of all the immediates in boys tennis this spring, and that's a great job for the Dukes.
Okay, well, make sure you check out the Alliance Review and the Review.com each day. We'll have coverage of all the big games and matches, and also video highlights of some of the big matches as well. So for Mike Brown, this is Rob Toter. We'll talk to you next week.